Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, traders. Steve here at Logic FX Trading, and welcome to our daily FX analysis. What a day yesterday was, folks. After all the doom and gloom of the few weeks before, we had the biggest move long in the stock markets since March. And I did buy into it the day before. I think I mentioned it yesterday. So I got a really nice return yesterday. Still haven't claimed back everything I lost last month. That's going to need the markets to continue to grow. But nonetheless, it was a nice boost to confidence and a nice boost to your decision-making process, guys. We do know that if we're in investments for the long term, then, we should be okay. But nonetheless, it's sitting with a drawdown isn't pleasant, isn't what we're here for. We're here to make money, not to sit and wait for the market to change direction, guys. But unfortunately, that's part of trading. It's the luck element of trading, is that if you make the right decisions based on, your skill of picking the right companies, and the market goes up, then you're a great big winner. And if you pick the right companies and the market goes down, you don't go down as much as other people, but nonetheless, for that period of time, with everyone else, you go into the red. Okay, so what about the currency markets, which is what we're here for? Well, obviously, the safe havens, if this optimism continues, I think the market's getting used to the fact that what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, inflation isn't transitory. So it's kind of pricing it in their own minds. The stocks the growth stocks that were really hammered for the last few months have perhaps got to levels where their value, or certainly better value than they were. And then, of course, we've got the Omicron, which seems to be not as big a deal as what the market initially thought it was. Having said that, I did think they were overreacting to it. Now, could that situation change? Of course it can, guys. None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I think Omicron's not going to be as big a deal. If it was the first time round, yes, the world would have locked down for it. But because we have vaccines out there, we have treatments, and we have fatigue of being locked down, and we have a necessity for the economy to keep going, I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as what the market maybe thought it was going to be, guys. Okay, so with that optimism, I'm leaning more towards the safe havens not continuing to grow, and we'll see how that goes. Right, okay. I'm just setting that up so that when I look at the charts, I have that in the back of my mind, because recently I've been looking at the yen and the Swiss and saying be careful of trading them short because of the worries of Omicron, but and inflation. But potentially they've been stalled, but we'll keep that in mind. Okay. Yesterday with the interest rate decision in Australia, I did say that I'd find out a little bit more about it because the Aussie took a boost from it. And I did find a couple of articles on it, guys. Obviously, Aussie buoyant, dollar listless, and Omicron optimism, less risky assets. And then this is specifically the Reserve Bank of Australia, no Christmas cash rate surprise, but stage set for big 2022. I read through this article. It's there for you guys to read. What I got from it was that the Bank of Australia, or the Reserve Bank of Australia, have been saying that they weren't going to increase interest rates until 2024. Very much like the Fed were saying, inflation is transitory. We don't see any reason for increasing interest rates. And just like the Fed, they've had to change their mind a little bit. And therefore, that date of 2024 will probably be 2023. But the markets think it may well even be 2022. They're priced for, the bond market is priced for 2022. Therefore, whether it's 2022, which obviously is in a month's time, starts in a month's time, or whether it's 2023, which will be kind of this time next year, I suspect that the Aussie will continue to grow into that expectation, guys. So unless that expectation changes for some reason, which obviously it may do, I think we'll see long moves in the Aussie against the correct other currencies, guys. Obviously, not necessarily long against the US dollar because we're also expecting it to continue to grow. But yet again, that will give us an idea in the back of our heads of what sort of trend we're looking for in the Aussie, paired together with we're not necessarily looking for drawdown, or sorry, for money moving into safe havens. So that kind of sets us for maybe Aussie yen, maybe Aussie Swiss, and if not necessarily that, certainly Aussie New Zealand could continue to go long. As I, guys, I'm honest with you all the time. There are times I'm into currency trading up to my neck, and then there are other times when I'm not. At the moment, I'm not. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm jumping in and out of them, which isn't necessarily the right thing to do, because at the moment, those trades that I'm jumping out of are turning out to have been good trades had I stayed in them. Why am I jumping in and out of them? Basically because I'm a bit worried about how much, I was a bit worried about how much cash I had on the table. And therefore I closed trades. But having thought that, if a currency trades in the green, really put the stop loss to zero, guys. And therefore you can't lose. If it comes back down, it hits zero, you've got your money back and it's on the table. And if you're correct in your analysis and the currency continues to go up, then you've got even more money on the table because you can close it at any instance. So perhaps I need to leave some of these currency trades on, folks. Okay. And for anyone who's listening in that doesn't know me, up to about a year ago, I was 100% a currency trader. And then with all the turmoil in the world economy, it became very difficult to rely on normal indicators. And the market became very, very difficult to predict. And I then started moving into stocks. But I'm now drifting back into trading both, guys. So that's where we are. Of years of experience of trading currencies, and years of experience of investing in stocks, but not trading them the way we have been this year. So let's get on with it. Start with the yen, as we usually do, or recently we've been doing. I was just looking at this recently, kind of looking at this and thinking to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if the yen kind of held its ground here. Oh, one of the things I wanted to talk about before we went over there was balance of trade in Canada come in at 2.1 billion, up on forecast. And then GDP growth annualized in Japan come in at minus 3.6, which was below forecast. The revised for the previous annualized was 2%. So that's a swing of negative 5.6%, guys. And then today we have Bank of Canada interest rate decision. And later in the week, we've got inflation in Canada and Mexico. And on Friday, we're Thursday, Friday. Why do we not have Friday in here? Friday, we have inflation Germany, GDP UK, inflation US. So it's still a bit of information to come out this week, guys. So I'm not overly concerned. Can this drop a bit? Yeah, but only if the stock markets drop, guys. If we're looking for the stock market to continue to push up, and by the way, let's have a quick look at that before we get going. It's in Stockwatch, isn't it? Yeah. There was the move up in the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, and the S&P yesterday, guys. So they regained most of what they lost over the last week or so, or the last couple of weeks. Where they go from here, well, obviously that will be determined by how Omicron goes and how inflation goes and how the bond markets react to that. But I was looking for, a bit of a flat period of time, guys, because they've come up massively for the whole of last year. And you would not be surprised if you got a rest period through maybe 2022. Doesn't mean there won't be profits to be made, guys. Just means that we'll have to pick our times. Can that be wrong? Well, of course it can be wrong, guys. It could just keep on growing, but it's a tremendous rate it's been growing at, guys. So be surprised if it continued. Pleasantly surprised if it continued to grow. I suspect we're being for a turbulent year. So I can see it running flat, guys. Something maybe like that. Just looking for something. That was a flat. So it came up and up and up, and then it corrected for, is that 6 months? And then off it went again. And then there you have another little flat, corrected for 3 or 4 months, and off it went again. And then more recently it's done this, which not in your wildest dreams would you have said when we were back here that the stock market would have grown that much, guys. So there needs to be a correction of it. When that's going to come, I don't know, but at least a flat correction. Not the panic, but we need to be aware of what we're looking at. You'll always get a correction, guys. Although, to be honest, if you look at this, I was looking for it to run flat back in, when was that, September, but we had that push up. So what am I saying now? Well, potentially it'll run flat here, guys. Whatever way you want to look at that. Okay, so back to currencies. DXY. That's 100 in there, guys. I've just put it in as a marker, not necessarily setting it as a target yet. Is that the top? I don't think so. I think there's going to be more upside to it. But if we get into down into the 4-hour time scale, what's concerning me a little bit at the minute about the dollar is this structure. Because although I still think it's going to continue up in this diagonal structure, I wouldn't be surprised if you got a move, something of that order of magnitude down to complete a little zigzag there, guys, before it goes. Now, does it have to do that? No, it doesn't, but it's a little warning sign, guys. It can just do that and push on up. We know it can, but so often when you get a structure like that, you'll get a correction down again. So I'll keep an eye on that, guys. If it were to come down to there, I would certainly be keen to trade the dollar long. Excuse. And there you have that same structure on. And by the way, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, and I'm not going to try and trade it down. But I wouldn't be very keen to trade that long from there. I've put the alarm there to let me know if it moves down in that direction, guys, during the day, I hear the alarm go off. I always check to see what's happening. And there's that same structure on the euro dollar. And you would not be surprised if that pushed up and then we'd come at this with more confidence. You'd come at that trade there with more confidence, guys. It can go from there, but you'd be happier if you saw that. Look at that one there, guys. So often these point you in the direction of the next move. And when you come out into the 4-hour or the daily time scale, these structures become so blatantly obvious, guys. Now, they don't always point in the right direction, but often they do. And you can see them all over the place there, guys. This is one that didn't. You can see it there. And then it dropped out the bottom. But then there, look at that one, dropped. That dropped. Now, okay, it then came back up, but look at that, pointed in the right direction. That one didn't. And I suppose that one, you might have been looking for it to do that. That one didn't, although it did after there. But this certainly looks like it could do that. Yet again, I wouldn't trade it. But if euro dollar got into that sort of level, I'd be keen to try and trade it down. Pound. Well, as I've been saying, I think it will run flat, guys, or slightly down, and I don't want to trade it. Aussie. Now, against the dollar, I don't particularly want to trade it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got this sort of structure pulling back up, which is what we put in the other day, and then we've got that. So that could be the first leg of this up. Could it turn out that it ends up run the way up there? Well, possibly, but not probably. I'm looking for something more like that. And then if it does that, we can make a decision over here or over here as to whether we want to start trading it short. And the same with the New Zealand. Possibly something like that before it would push down again. US CAD, with that nice move on the CAD yesterday. I assume the oil price went up yesterday. Yep, there you have it. And that's in conjunction with a possible pullback here on the dollar, which if it happened, then there'd be more downside to this. I just don't see a setup for it at the moment. And I don't know if we're going to get that drawdown in the dollar, but it's just something to work your head around, guys. US Swiss. See, currencies are constantly moving, guys. I know everything's constantly moving, but what I mean is that you're trying to catch these small moves in currency trading, whereas with a stock, you kind of analyze the stock, maybe you do a bit of fundamental analysis of it, and then you buy it, and really you should be holding on to it for weeks and months at least, if not years. So you kind of do the analysis once. With currency, you need to be analysing it daily, guys, and making decisions daily. Decisions that if you got into a trade, is it continuing to move in the direction that you want? Is it coming back down? Has something changed that means the trend's changed, etc., etc. Yes, Swiss, yet again, has that look of wanting to pull back down before maybe moving long. Yet again, I'm not going to trade this, guys. Reason being, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen with the Swiss and the yen. You're never 100% sure, but you understand what I mean. I've no established trend for them at the minute. And you really want to be looking for something that you've a good idea of where it's going, and trading it against something else that you've a good idea of where it's going. US, Swedish, wouldn't be surprised if we got a nice flat in here, and then after a bit of a rest period, it started to push up. US yen also has that look, guys, where it looks like it wants to do that, and therefore if it did that, the arrow normally means the direction I'm talking about trading it. So I'm not suggesting you trade it. I'm just saying it could drop, and then from there I would look to trade it long. Gold. Well, we had the little alarm go off. It's a little bit of a move up in gold. There's possibly an ending diagonal in there with divergence on the MACD, and therefore we could see a move up. Obviously, what works against it is if people are over the fear of Omicron and have accepted certain levels of interest rate, or not interest rate, sorry, inflation, then I don't see any big reason for gold to go long. But if things turn pear-shaped, guys, if this Omicron becomes a big fearful thing, and remember the market's like a crowd of wildebeest, it only takes a dog to bark and off they run. And then they settle down, they look back and go, oh, that was just a dog, it was all right, and then they drift back over. It's kind of my view of the market, guys. Everybody thinks that somebody knows something that they don't, and therefore they run with the crowd. And then somebody actually does some analysis and comes out and goes, these prices are far too cheap, they're undersold, or oversold, should I say. Maybe it's time to buy back in, and then the market starts drifting back. So you can see that when and I know this isn't a currency, or this isn't a stock market, but you can see it. The crowd gets spooked, it all runs, and then hanging about a bit, and then, oh, it was only a dog barking. Same thing there. Oh, there was only one lioness. She was on her own. We can deal with her. Oh, no, oh, no. Is that another one comment? Oh, it is. Oh, no, it wasn't. That's the way the market moves, guys. And therefore you shouldn't be frightened of it. Silver, same thing. It is down at the bottom of this flat correction. I have been indicating that it may, push further down into this sort of area here. At that level, I might buy some more. I do wish I wasn't in it, to be quite honest. But at that level, it might be worth buying. Why do I think it'll go to there? Because it's potentially a C wave on a flat correction, and that isn't that would be the fifth wave, which usually would break there. It doesn't have to, but usually would break there. Certainly it should at least give you a double bottom. Wouldn't be surprised if it pushed on down. And then from there, it'd be time to buy back in if you want to trade currencies or commodities, guys. Bitcoin made a nice rally, and it's currently pulling back down again. For me, it hasn't come down enough for me to be interested in it. If you wanted to fib that particular move, certainly from that point of view, it's moved down enough to continue moving long. But that was the recent high, should I say, not all-time high. Oh no, it wasn't. That's been an all-time high there, guys. That was the all-time high. So are we looking maybe at something like this, where it's now going to go up in a channel, continue to go up, but in a channel? There are a lot of people calling it for 100,000. So does it now start to move in this sort of direction, similar to the way the dollar has been moving? Well, maybe there. So I'm a little bit hoarse today for some reason, guys. Could you copy that and bring it over to the Bitcoin market? I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen, guys. It's just throwing ideas out there. Obviously, it's not a higher time. It's not exact, but you understand what I'm saying, guys. Could it end rather than shooting up like that and then dropping and shooting up and dropping. Could it now start to settle as it becomes more institutionalized? Still volatile, but marching towards its 100,000 potentially, which then means you buy the dip. So anytime it comes down, near the bottom of the channel, you buy. Be interesting to see how that pans out, guys. But remember, all of these things do move in recognizable structures. And the main thing is to try and recognize it early, so that you can take advantage of it. And then Ethereum potentially doing the same thing, guys. So rather than a double top there, we could be in some sort of channel that's going to move on up, which means that if it dropped down to those sort of levels that I talked about, is that it now coming into that? Is that then the channel, which actually might look more realistic? Is that then the channel? Which means that it could well, drop down to these sorts of levels before pushing up. Let's see. And when would I trade it? Well, if I got some evidence of that, certainly down there would be a good place to buy it. And the same with Bitcoin. If it were to come, a little bit lower, then that would be a decent place to think about buying it. Oil, possibly going to run flat, guys. EuroCAD, let's get out of the daily. With that big push down, it's hanging around there. I don't know what to make of it anymore, guys. Euro Oz, potentially there's more downside to that. Euro New Zealand, potentially there's more downside to that. That looks like an ending diagonal, guys, with a blip on the end. If you took that to a different time scale, certainly looks to me like it's getting ready to drop. That's tailing out. Look, potentially getting ready to go long. And I know that's the opposite of what we said with the euro in this situation. Is that going to drop again like that, guys? Remember, often what we'll get with this is, let's say trend is in that direction. I don't know if trend's in that direction with this, guys. Let's say trend's in that direction. Then if you get an ending diagonal, often you'll get a 50% retracement. If trend's in that direction, then that's a potentially really good setup to trade that way. But if trend's still in that direction, then you'll get a 50% retracement. Actually, that's where I drew it to before we put the fib on. And then price will continue in that way. What we've got to establish is, if you wanted to trade that, is what direction's trend going in. I suspect it's short. Yeah. It's short. Potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave. That is a 3, it's not a 5. And therefore I would not be surprised if you got another leg down to there to complete a diagonal. Something like that. So that's technical, guys. That's not based on any that's not based on fundamentals, but it is interesting enough for me to have a think about. Euro yen. Ending diagonal, looks like it wants to push up. Euro Swiss, potentially the same. What we said last week was, if we saw a little push up and then a setup, if it starts to break out of that, then it may well push up. Yet again, technical, guys. But do remember, if the market gets frightened again, then the Swiss will boost. So the only thing in the short term is if the dollar were to give us that leg there, then the euro should give us a leg up, which means that you could well get a trade there. Pound CAD. That's so blatantly obvious now. See it? Too late. It's gone. Pound Oz. Another one. We were looking for a setup there, though I did say yesterday I'll not be trading it, guys. I'm a little bit wary of it. And look at that. So has it got more downside? Potentially. Look at that one. Look at that. If you get something to give you a reason to get into it short, either a little pullback or a little flat, potentially come back down into there, guys. And there you have the breakout as well on the New Zealand. The Swiss, we were looking for that to go long, actually. So something's happened to the pound, which I'm not aware of. I'll find out. Pound euro, yeah, something's happened to the pound, guys, in the last couple of hours, because we were looking for these to push long. Potentially the Bank of England's come out dovish. Do you remember we were looking for the Bank of England to potentially increase interest rates? They may have come out this morning. Let me just pause and find out. I wonder, is the pound dropping because of this story, guys? Last Christmas, the government came out and cancelled Christmas, basically, for everyone's own good. But then they went ahead and had a party in number 10. And of course, everyone's using this as ammunition to beat the Prime Minister with. And maybe the markets think that he's going to resign. I can't see Boris resigning over it. But maybe that's why the pound's dropping. I can't see any other reason why all of a sudden there's a drawdown in the pound, guys. There's been a leaked video of 10 Downing Street staff laughing about the Christmas party, which obviously is, a pie in his face. But, people are like children, aren't they? The reason that the government brings out laws is to help people make the decisions that they won't make for themselves. As any of you guys know that listened to me for a while, when this virus arrived in London, I locked myself and my parents down, which was about 6 weeks before the government actually said that everyone had to be locked down. That was me taking personal responsibility for my own health. And people are, we didn't have our Christmas party. For goodness sake. Okay, anyway, there you go. People are just like children. Okay, let's get on with it. Maybe that's one of my problems with life, is I expect more of people. When you've got high expectations and you're continually, they continually get dashed. Aussie yen, potentially setting up for another leg up, guys. Aussie, New Zealand, there you go. That's in the 4 hours. This is one of the ones I was in and then I got out of it. Don't know that we're going to get that. I'll probably do that on the 4-hour time scale, guys. So that's probably a little bit exaggerated. The point was, I was saying yesterday, was that if you weren't in it, then look for some sort of setup to get into it. And I'll agree with that. I'll still say that. I was potentially looking at that and drawing it to that scale. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think if you're lucky, you'll get a half decent little dip. That is an impulse wave, guys, which potentially needs to correct. And therefore, you would see it going on up. We have looked at this over the last few weeks with the idea that this needs to push on up, up into this sort of level, which is on a daily time scale. So there's a lot of pips, if that's what you trade, to be had in there. Aussie Swiss, there's the rebound. That was all the herd running, and then we have a bit of a rebound here, guys. But yet again, if you got a nice setup, potentially there's more upside to that. Oops. Aussie CAD. Not so sure about that one, guys, because I never am. Swiss yen. I'd love to trade it up. Is there any sort of divergence going on down there? There is. In this messy structure. Potentially the next moves up. CAD Swiss. Yeah. Impulse, ending diagonal, all to do with the panic, guys. Panic's over. Massive move up. That would have been a fantastic trade to be in. You would have now had your stop at zero. You could decide whether to take your profit or whether to wait and see if it's going to continue on up. I would wait to see what we get next. See if we get some sort of setup to try and get into it. But that was a beautiful trade there. And this is the one I was in that I got out of. Oh, same thing, guys. Lovely move up there. New Zealand yen. Same with this. Not as obviously as extravagant as that move, but we did point out the ending diagonal. We got a drop, which would have possibly killed the trade, and then a move up. I don't know if it's going to continue on up, but possibly. I wouldn't try and trade that one. New Zealand CAD. It's 5 waves, guys. So is there going to be a move back up into here? I'm not going to trade against the CAD at the minute, folks. And then New Zealand Swiss. Same thing as with the New Zealand yen. Potentially a move up. But I'd prefer the Aussie. What are we looking at? The Aussie Swiss. I'd prefer to trade that, guys. Okay, that's it for today. I know it's a little bit rambling, guys, but at the end of the day, this is just my thoughts at the start of the trading day. Of what's happening, or what I feel that's happening, or what I think that's happening, and where we could look for opportunities. And then, of course, you've got to put your money on the table, guys, if you want to take advantage of them. Okay, bye for now.